All rise, the pod is now in session. And with that, we are on episode number 9, doing just fine back here with the fellas, Chris and Robert, another week.
It is.
And another crack at this thing that we love to do.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what they say. What's going on, bros?
What's going on with y'all, man? I'm good. Robert, what's up with you, man? Back there quiet. I ain't heard from you.
Not a dang thing. Just chilling in the cut, chilling.
Another day with unexpected rain.
Chilling in the cut like witch hazel.
And that's why I had to put this sweater on, because I felt the chill coming. Like, oh, okay.
When I got up, it seemed like it was kind of sunny. And I looked a few minutes later, it started looking overcast. And
I actually
opened the blinds
outside,
up. Yeah.
Took the dogs out, and the cars were covered. I was like, oh, it rained. Wasn't in the forecast, or if so, I missed it. So, sunny on the pod, cold outside. We all good.
Everything is great.
There it is, yeah. Especially for the Lakers, because they actually got back in that win column after a couple of bad losses. Couple to Chicago, you had Orlando in there, but then they go up against that 4-5 matchup with the Memphis Grizzlies. They pull it out 134-127, and I think this is where you see some of the best version of the Lakers when it comes to LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. They kind of saved the day for them. Jackson Hayes, not really a factor too much in this one, limited minutes, but those guys got off and really helped out. What were your impressions of the game, Bear?
You know what? I was okay with it initially. I saw the things that I thought we needed to see as a team, especially offensively and some defensively, to get back on track from those horrible losses in the previous 2-3 games. So and being so close to, we have a hell of a week coming up, where it is critical for us to be playing some of our best ball. Not only because the playoffs, we want to be on a winning streak or at least a good road running into the playoffs, but because the margin for error is so small. Going from where we are now to play in, I don't want to be in a play-in situation. I think that goes against us as far as dealing with having LeBron James, and I think that even matchup-wise, I think that we'll still get a favorable matchup if we stay on the course that we're staying on. I liked it. I think that it's clear to see that Austin Reeves is clearly the third guy. I mean, we're averaging 19, 20 points a game this season.
Yeah, LeBron has said as much.
Yeah, but I think that some of the things that we saw transition-wise defensively, I did not like. And I know we're going to see. I think part of the issue is when we play against a quick guard, that becomes our Achilles heel, because obviously we don't want a guard being able to crash the middle. And when there's a quick-footed guard that we're playing, it poses problems defensively for us. Because we know Luka, for all the greatness he is as far as an offensive side, defensively he's going to struggle. And we know that good things never happen when a guy can get down the middle. Defensively, we're going to start getting our bigs in foul trouble. I love the rolling up until, I want to say, like beginning the third quarter. I like the movement offensively, how we rotated the ball and how we were looking for the extra pass. It was nice because I saw sometimes we made that extra pass and it made it much easier. I think we got in transition 2-3 dunks in a row, and it was with ease because we were looking to make that extra pass. As a Laker, I'm maybe more concerned if I don't see what I need to see, because we got the win, but moving forward, when you understand who we're going to have to play coming up, I think we should have tightened up more. And you don't want to try to attempt that against the coming games that we have where we could possibly lose. I mean, there's a big possibility we could lose all but one. I mean, one you think is a gimme game, but it's not.
Well,
what I mean? You think about it, we think it's a gimme game, but it really we thought Chicago
so Orlando and Chicago,
right? Orlando, we thought those are gimme games, and we got busted in our eye, and part of that was due to lack of defense, lack
Indiana
of
was
the defensive energy.
A tip in at the end, by far, yeah.
Well, that's because the lack of defensive energy. I think that we're never, and I understand stats wise, statistically we were looking great, but I knew that was just the guys feeding off the energy. When they had Luka and LeBron really, going after loose balls or really stepping in and making an effort to kind of stay in front of their man, the rest of the team fed off of it. And being that LeBron James, and part of it too, we have to remember, LeBron James was out for a week or whatever. So to get back into the flow and get everything, I knew that was coming. I just thought that some of the games that we played, those were good starter games for them to come back to. And we still, I'm upset. Don't get me wrong, because that put us in this situation that doesn't look favorable for us. And now the pressure is on. And maybe, maybe I'm selling LeBron James short and remembering that. And he's been in those situations. And by that way, Luka. So I think that we have the potential. This could be great if we can come out like 500, because I don't think that, the game's looking ahead. I don't think OKC, and there's no need to. They don't have to play their guys. They'll probably play that first game, but I think it's less likely that they'll play their starters that second
That
game that
April
we
8th
play. And I
game,
think
probably not.
which see
It's
that could
reasonable.
help us out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we still have other teams that's coming along. So it was a good win. It was a quality win. I just that I wish we'd have tightened up the defensive side before we go on this last week or so of games. I think we have like 6-7 games. I just wish we'd have tightened up defensively. But besides that, I loved it. I loved it offensively. You could tell that we were getting back in a rhythm, and that's the most important thing. And the one thing that we don't talk about is how is our coaching going to come along? I know he's made our coach has made great decisions, some questionable earlier in the season, but we all know that, playoff ball is a whole different ball game. And as a coach, the moves that need to be made and everything during the course of the playoffs, and depending on who we play, which would, I think if we were to go today, you said something like Memphis, we would end up playing.
It's a first round matchup.
That's not,
Yeah.
Come on, you're playing against Ja. I think that would be a great test for us defensively to kind of get everything tightened up in gear for the next round, because that second round could be, you think of who's still in there. You still got Golden State that's going to be up in there. There's a few teams with great fast guards that Luka's going to have to face that we need to figure out a way to kind of, shield or cover up his inefficiency to be effective defensively against fast guards. So, but besides that, I think we'll be okay. But it's just one of them things where I'm still upset behind the last 2 games, because we should have been in a better position now. But I'll take it. A win is a win. But man, I tell you,
Yeah.
we gave it up towards the end, so where we had to fight back. You know what I mean? That's the thing we cannot do. We have to, and I think that's been an issue, all year long. Is we've been getting by since the trade. Is that we have to stay consistently and actually put them down when we have the chance. Don't give them a chance to come back, because that will come back to hunt us in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Rhea is our resident Boston fan. What'd you see? What'd you think of the game?
Oh, that Memphis game. Yeah. After that second half, when Memphis started to storm back in the third and they got back into it in the fourth, it looked like the Lakers were going to let another one slip away from them. And I was thinking like, man, it's one of two things. Maybe it's the Lakers have figured out for the most part what it is they need going into playoffs, and they're kind of laying it down, which I don't think they're in a position to be doing at just sitting at fourth right now currently.
Right.
Only about half a game in front of Memphis, or a game. So it's only about 2.5 games that separates them and the 7th seed right now, which is the Warriors. So you can't be that comfortable. They can't feel it. So I don't know if it was that, because they've let a few slip that they should not. Those 2 Chicago games, that last,
especially the last one in Chicago, with the way those antics with turnovers, threes, not getting out, not closing.
It was exciting though. I'll give it that.
Oh no.
Josh Giddey hitting that halftime shot to win the game was like, that was crazy. But even the Indiana game, that tip in to preserve the win, or to put them on top, actually, it didn't even preserve it. Like, they were set to lose that game up until that tip in. It's just been too many of these teams. I mean, these are low quality teams. Like, you shouldn't be fighting, much less losing to them. So I'm not sure if the Lakers are just kind of laying it down and are getting themselves ready for the playoff push and are preserving their energy for that, which I hope they're not in that mindset, because you've got too many tests coming up. You got, like you said, I believe you mentioned earlier, like they have like the second toughest schedule to end the season in their final 8 games.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't really have the luxury of laying it down right now to gear up for you got to start getting, matter of fact, you got to start finding your rhythm. It's not even about laying it down and getting comfortable. You have to gear up. Yeah. You got to get ready, because again, the more I look at it, I know I was kind of worried about, if I'm a Laker fan, that Memphis Grizzlies first round matchup. The more I look at that team, outside of Jaren Jackson, which he quietly is like the biggest threat to the Lakers winning against them, because he gives them size the Lakers just don't have in the middle. I mean, he does. I mean, he didn't do a great job of
stretches
rebounding
the floor.
last night. He does a lot. Like that Jaren Jackson, he's the biggest problem in Memphis, if you ask me. I think you can account for Ja to some degree, or let him get his, and he's going to do what he does. There's no really, you can minimize him as much as you can, but you can't really stop him Ja. But it's Jaren Jackson Jr. that concerns me if I'm a Laker fan like that. He's that size is something that you just can't compete with. Like there's not enough lobs you can throw Jackson Hayes to counter that.
Yeah.
So he's the one thing that really can't be accounted for. So that's the one thing I'd be looking at in that first round matchup. But you got some games down the stretch, man. Rockets, Warriors, Thunder twice back to back.
Yeah.
Mavericks, which the AD's in the lineup for that game, that can go either way. You know what I mean? Depending on how motivated they are. The mere fact that they're putting him out on the floor to make a push,
which is weird to me
for the play-in.
Personally, I just can't see the value personally. But
because even if you do make the playoffs, what's your ceiling? First round exit,
right.
But maybe it's just for pride. AD wants to prove.
Sweep.
Yeah. Why waste?
And gentleman is being polite.
Injury.
I'm talking about a straight up 4-0 sweep. I ain't even talking about a gentleman sweep. Maybe AD wants to kind of show that he is capable of going out there and weathering the storm, and maybe it's an ego thing for him. Maybe he needs it more than anything else. I don't think it's wise. You risk further injury and next season. I mean, so they got to stretch. They got the Rockets twice. They're second to last game. And the only game I could think of is kind of a gimme game for the Trailblazers. By then, I would imagine the Lakers have been situated. They probably won't be starting.
I don't know.
I don't think it goes down to the wire to the very last game of the season. I think the Lakers can kind of at least mail it in against Portland. Like you would hope by that time, like the dust is settled enough that you know where you stand.
I think
we don't have to put our starting five on the floor.
4 through 8 is if it goes wrong, no, the Lakers could.
Considering how they fare prior to that game, I think.
And because of who they have to play, they can't mail it in because if they lose, let's say 2-3 games in this last stretch, we're looking at 7th, 8th. Right. It's going to be bad real fast. So.
Yeah, I think for me, what I looked at was one. I agree with you guys. It was a little bit of a reaffirmation that the Grizzlies aren't as scary as some people may think. But where they do excel or where they're most consistent is Jaren Jackson Jr. because he fills a void that the Lakers can't. You look at that last game Jackson Hayes had. He had 2 points, 5 boards on 17 minutes. So they even had to pull him out just to get him out of his own way, it felt like. So you're dealing with that. Jared Vanderbilt is not somebody who is going to give you a lot of high volume points. He only played 10 minutes the last game, 6 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. Not bad numbers. He's always going to be a good defender. You got contributions from Rui and then 13 points. You had Dorian Finney-Smith give you another 11. But it was really the 3 who locked it in. And that's where even LeBron, when he talks, he says, we have to be connected. We have to be the driving force. I think the only thing that scares me is those last 3 games or those 3 losses that we looked at. And it's like, in a race this tight, you can't lose to inferior opponents. And I think the Lakers have done that more than they should if you look back over the games. So if they can tighten it up, I think we're in a good spot. It's just a matter of making sure that we can really lock up a seed so we know where we're playing. I'm with Yuri. If we can figure out exactly, hey, we can get a 3-game win streak, 4 or 5-game win streak and call it and say, look, they can't catch us here, then cool.
That's right.
I'd be resting folks left and right, maybe a game or 2 before, ramp up just to keep everything moving and loose. But other than that, because there just isn't going to be. The one thing about the Western Conference, there are going to be no breaks. Like you are not just going to be able to lay it down, especially if you don't take care of business in the next couple of games. So I guess, we'll see. Again, LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves has definitely solidified that 3rd spot in terms of their big 3.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it's really going to come down to is those 3 guys being able to lock in and really push. You can't have these lulls. The Lakers are notoriously bad in the 3rd quarter. I think they need to really focus on that because you spend all this energy. And even when they're not bad in the 3rd, if they've had bad first halves, they spend so much energy coming back that they can't close those games out. So we'll see. Obviously, the games are coming fast. We're at the end of the year. So we're going to have to see where they fall. But it'll be interesting because I will tell you, as a basketball fan, the Lakers are a team I would not want to see in any matchups because there's just too much experience. There's too much firepower to where even with defensive challenges, they could still present enough of a problem to take you out.
The Lakers are the one team which, despite their defensive deficiency, It's crazy to say this. I think they're the one team who can be the exception in the sense that they can make up for that deficiency by just enthusiasm alone, because they have the talent.
Yeah,
you got LeBron, Luka. Again, Austin Reeves had not just solidified himself as the number 3 option for the Lakers. I think he's a legitimate number 2 elsewhere. Like, Austin Reeves is coming on as, we should see him in some All-Star games in the future. Like,
very near future.
That's coming soon. I mean, he's arrived. I mean, I'm not as good as he'll ever get. I'm not sure. Maybe his ceiling is higher than even I've estimated.
Yeah.
But I think he definitely has come on. Again, to be a big 3 in LA says a lot, because we're already established superstar in the league. And I hate to use him as an example, but I have to. People like Russell Westbrook, for example, comes to LA and them lights get too bright. Man. So if you can stand up to it now and here in LA, that game travels. Yeah. He can take that elsewhere.
That's your only experience. He's
only known the lights of the crypto. That's all he knows, and he's shown under those lights. So I know that show can travel elsewhere.
I think another part that we didn't really play into that. Me personally, I know that defensively, the games we lost, we weren't best, but most importantly, offensively, we weren't great. See, LeBron James, I think, didn't have 20 points. None of those games. I think we were like 17, 19. So I just knew once we got back offensively, it would outshine the inefficiencies that we have defensively. And the only thing, too, I'll say is why I think that this is it starts with Monday. We play the Houston Rockets. We have to make sure that we go over, win the next 5 games. Because if we don't, I want you guys to go take a look at the Clippers' remaining schedule. They have a chance to go ahead and get to us because that schedule is favorable for them. That's the issue. It's not the issue is that the Lakers have a less than favorable schedule at the end of the season.
Right.
If it wasn't for that, I would not be worried. But we're talking about going from where we currently are down to 7th, 8th with just losing potentially going 500. That's what scares me. And that's why I'm just hoping that, but I think that, we'll be fine. My main thing was us finding the offensive rhythm. And I think that, when you talked about, AD coming in, I think AD is just trying to give them hope to show that, like, once we get everybody, to full strength. And I think it's hopefully, we know he's injury prone. So it's a big gamble doing that. But I think he's going to go out there and try to play outstanding basketball. Not only we're going to play, we're going to play the Lakers, and he wants to shine. Because remember, last time we played him, I mean, listen, his AD's first outing was, he gave him pause to be like, oh, okay, I can see it. I can see.
He gave him definite hope. Yeah.
Let's be honest with it, man. The injuries to that team were so detrimental. You don't see it like this. So it's one of those things where I think, I'm telling you, I think Dallas is going to be fine next year as long as AD can stay healthy. Those guys come back, they're going to be a force. I think they have a great coach. They have a great core, and honestly, for Nico's sake, boy, they better come back, because if not, oh my God, he won't make. If AD
Nico will be at the front desk of the
he's a dead man walking.
Venezuela.
Oh no! Listen,
he's a dead man walking, man. I'm not even like
they don't have to be playing well in the NBA season next year. They have to be dominant. I mean, like they have to
especially if the Lakers go on a run. That's going to be hard to swallow. Yeah,
you know what?
Yeah, they'd be like, nah, being in the top 4 ain't going to be good enough. Like, we need to be top of the West. For him to keep his job, they got to start out and be that team. Like, it's theirs to lose for them.
Yeah. And I want to ask our coach on the panel, for y'all who don't know, Chris, been a coach for, I want to say, well over 20 years now, fresh out of high school, among other things. But before we push on to the next topic, right? This Laker team, can they? Do you think it's possible that the Lakers can be the team, or has it already been done to our knowledge? Maybe we don't realize. Can they dispel the myth or the rumor or the long-standing conventional wisdom that defense wins championship and be the first team to overcome defense and win by way of offense?
That's a great question. For me, I don't think if solely their offense is all it is, I don't think they can do it. And I say that because we've seen when they are playing their best, they are high energy. They are trapping. Like, when their defense turned a page for me was that Denver game when they smothered Jokic.
Got up in their face.
When hands were very active, when we're doubling, we're fronting, We got front and back. We're moving to the sides. Like we're covering wings. If you look at what happened in Chicago, for example, it was given up the 3 ball, right? They were chasing the ball entirely too much. And the NBA is too much of a shooting team to not have the ability to stop somebody from hitting shots. That's going to be a problem. So I think they can give a run. I mean, you look at the score from last night. Austin put up 31, Luka put up 29, LeBron put up 25. If you get a few more guys like you had Rui with 13, Dorian Finney-Smith gave you 11, Gabe Vincent gave you 15. If you can keep that going, you're going to win more games. But to keep in mind the type of players you have, the young athletic guys that you have to deal with in like a Houston.
Right.
Getting those guys open on wings, that's going to be problematic. Teams like the Warriors who are fighting and climbing, where it's like, no, we have the most dangerous three-point shooter in this sport's history. That's going to be a problem. So I think overall, with their best defense that we've seen from the Lakers, they can compete. If it's what we've seen, I would say the last 5 or 6 games, no. I think what can help the Lakers being an older team, when you look at LeBron, I mean, from LeBron's standpoint, is the advantage is it slows down and you know your opponent, right? Because now this is just a matchup and you have to figure out how to get to 4 games before the next team, and you're really trying to exploit those matchups. So I think that makes it easier, because going from Houston to OKC, it's a different feel, right? Shea is Shea, and okay, now we have an absolute superstar. We know exactly what they're going to do. He has probably the best role players. You bring in somebody like Caruso, who used to be with us, who's a great wing defender, can knock down shots. So you have all these little dynamics. Houston is just going to be athleticism. So even if you were to play them in a series, it's like, okay, we have to contend with that youth for 4 games. What do? We slow it down, get me the ball in the post, make them adjust to me. This might actually be advantageous to us if we can still get Jackson Hayes rolling and things like that. So I think the Lakers' best version of their defense can dispel the myth that you can't be an absolute defensive monster. But even if you look at when they've been playing defense well, they've played defense very well,
right,
where they've upticked to where it's like, it's not impossible. But the version we've seen the last 5 games, I don't think they can win a championship playing that way.
They can win some games, they need but that. They can't win.
I think they can win some games, and even a series or 2 possibly. But I don't think you can get up against like a Boston and be able to consistently pull out games with just Luka going for 35 or 40 even. If LeBron's going for 15 or 19, I don't think that's enough. And Boston, for example, is a team who will smother you.
Yeah.
Like they love getting out. They love putting pressure on the wings because that's where their 2 best players are. So they have a unique set of skills where most teams are lacking is where our superstars are. So I don't think they can win a championship not playing their best version. But if they are playing their best defense, yeah, I think they can be a contender.
That's fair. That seems to be that's what I'm seeing. You're right.
Yeah, and I mean the proof is in the wins. Like when we look at the games they've lost, it's because Wagner and some of these other people have got off wide open threes and they're putting them up at high volume and people aren't recovering. It's bad turnovers. It's not getting steals and going for steals when you're 2 steps slower, and now they got wide open shots and they're just burying them. So I think if they can sit back, recognize where their strengths lie, especially when you have a point guard like Luka, he is not somebody who is going to speed up. So if you can sit and be who you are, then every team I've coached, I've made sure we have a culture and we have an identity. So regardless of what happens in the game, we do what we need to do. If I'm constantly trying to play their game, I've lost. In essence, right? If I can get them to do what we are comfortable with, our chances go up way, way more. Yeah. So
can't kind of how I look at their game. That's just usually how that goes.
Absolutely.
Take the fight to your advantage. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see what the rest of the year looks like here, but it's going to be a tough stretch. But as the weeks go on, we'll keep talking about it and see kind of where it falls. With that being said, we are in the middle of the madness. Right, we've got two men's teams who've punched their ticket so far. Florida and Duke. Final Four. I was gonna say, here we go, boy. Listen, this Duke theme is coming up, boy. You talk about having a year of all the years to have a podcast, Bear. This is the one where this man is getting off.
Yeah, but
I tell you, the Lady Blue Devils are down by 2 right now in a tough fight with South Carolina, and they are. What do we got? 32 0.6 seconds left, down by 2. So we'll see how that plays out. But
they get the ball, I believe, and get inbounded well, I mean, it's going to be one of the situations where, I mean, listen, I don't have any dog in the race. I just like watching great basketball.
Yeah.
Trust me, y'all, I don't want to hear this man just gloat like that. I'm looking at it now. Like, I mean, I don't wish bad on Duke, but damn, I want South Carolina to pull this one off. That way he only has one.
Oh, for the ladies. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for the ladies. This is, it's pretty much gone the way that we expected. It's been a game here or there for the most part that was like, oh, I didn't expect them to lose, but all the big dogs are still in it. Although I will say, I'm not a Duke fan, but Duke looks very great. I mean, especially with the size that they have. Duke look like it is hard. They're going to be a tough.
Just their ability to get out, come downhill is one of the things I'm impressed with. They will get downhill. Cooper will get downhill. Duke's guards are strong. They take care of the ball for the most part. They do a good job of hitting wide open shots. But anytime a team can get downhill, if you can get in the middle of the floor, you force everybody else to adjust. And in that adjustment phase, you tend to find easy baskets. So you got Duke, who's punched their ticket. You've got Florida, who's punched their ticket. No real surprise there, even though that was close. Yeah. You've got Auburn and Michigan playing today, Michigan State, and then you got Houston and Tennessee
playing right now.
Both of those teams fighting for that Final Four. But Bear, to your point, when we talk about all the surprises and Cinderellas and everything, the lowest seed between men and women is a 3 seed, and that 3 seed is even LSU, and that's on the women's side. Yeah. So, I mean, LSU is a historical 1 seed. You know what I mean? So as much as we get caught up in the fanfare and the hype, it kind of all plays out the way it's supposed to. What are your thoughts, Rick?
We discussed that a little bit earlier before the show, but it is amazing that for all of the expectation of surprises, upsets, I mean, because ultimately it's anybody's tournament to win. If you can string along 5, 6 good games, you can get 4 games, you get to Final Four, which we're down to now. Two of the field has already punched their tickets, and obviously you mentioned Florida and Duke. If you can string together a nice run, you can find, I mean, every now and again you'll get a Butler. But typically speaking, for all the excitement that we want out of it, all the fanfare and the surprise, it usually shakes out the same way. It's the same Power 5, like with Power 4 teams now, with the virtual absolution of the Pac-10, Pac-12. You get the same teams when it all shakes out. When the dust is settled, you're going to get a Big Ten, a Big East, ACC, SEC, some configuration of that. That's how it shakes out every single time. Every now and again, you might get a mid-major who'll make a deep run, maybe an Elite 8, maybe a Final Four if they're lucky. The Butlers are few and far between. I can't think of any other team that was kind of an unknown program to find itself in a championship game in college basketball. I can't think of any other exceptions but that team in recent history.
Yeah.
You might get a lower seed. That lower seed still coming from a program that's recognizable. You know who they are. You might get a Wisconsin or something in a championship game, but that's a big program. You know what I mean? Like, you've heard of them. It's not a middle Ohio Valley State University making a deep run. It's not a Loyola Chicago.
Canyon country of
Well, I mean, you know what? We didn't even get the Gonzaga kind of make a major push this year like that. That's you know what? We don't expect
and that's kind of standard, right? By now, right?
We kind of expect them to make it, interesting to where could they? We know they ultimately don't win, but could they make it interesting? You know what I mean? Because they're playing so well, and I just think that. I mean, man, I hate to say it again, man. Duke to me is the best team that's left. I think that Florida really shook me up the last game. That was a tough game for Florida. Because
same thing with Houston, with them barely winning on a buzzer beater. So in terms of consistency, Duke is the flavor of the moment.
I mean, I thought Texas Tech. Well, I said, "Oh, they're gonna pull it out," and they end up not doing it. But I think Florida was, to me, I needed to see. What Duke is showing me is that they're running away with it. Their talent, their skill set, their coaching, defensive set that they have. I think that they're showing they're peaking when they need to. A lot of the teams, there's some close calls. Duke is being dominant. They're taking control of the game, and they're not giving you any. And that's the way you need to play as each, as the progression goes on to each each level of the tournament.
That Arizona game had me pissed off. I'm not gonna lie, letting them get back in that game like that was like,
but
what are we
last
doing?
2 games, you guys, right? I think that's part of
all
it.
that did was make me miss Caleb Love in Carolina. But
man, he was pissing me off. That dude, I'm like, I wish he would have stayed in North Carolina. They could have found a way to keep that one in Chapel Hill. There's no way.
Yeah, that's a whole.
You couldn't find a spot for Caleb Love.
That's a whole other one. Besides,
but what I've been impressed by and what I've loved so much is that we do not need Cooper Flagg to be the hero every game.
That's the key.
Like we've been able to win convincingly without Cooper Flagg
for them.
Yeah. He doesn't have to be the best player in college basketball every single night.
Yep.
We still got Knepp
most nights.
We still have Malawaj, who was altering all kind of shots. Like in the stat sheet, it doesn't show that he altered more shots than we can count on our hands and toes.
Right.
We see the 2 blocks on that sheet. But again, the effect that he had defensively outside of just getting blocks. I mean, and Cooper Flagg, the thing about him that's so great is he can make up for his lack of offensive production with his defense. I mean, he is a straight up dog defender. He can get blocked shots. He's got busy hands. He knows the passing lanes. Cooper Flagg is a 2-way player, 3-level scorer, 6'9". So again, you don't need him to be all world every night. Again, we still got Khan out there. You got Foster, my man Sion. We've got a pretty balanced team. And they're coming on at the right time. I of course, I can't love it more, but it'd be nice to see Cooper Flagg just have that real big Larry Bird. Well, Larry Bird ultimately loses in the finals, but to have that moment to really propel him, because I think otherwise, if he doesn't win, a good thing about Cooper Flagg is we stand a chance to see him again in college next year. If it doesn't work out, there's a possibility.
Yeah. You think so? You think
there's a possibility? That he returns next year.
I think he would stay. Just considering the landscape and what's going on in the NBA, I could totally see him staying. Like,
I see it when pushing him to the
would
draft.
Have me at number 1 would be like, I'm cool.
Because right now he's pretty much the number 1 pick as it stands. Like I don't think anybody else is really. But a championship kind of solidifies that. And at that point, like, what are you staying for? I mean, maybe he's enjoying his college journey. It's fun to him. He wants another crack at it back-to-back if he can do it this year and then come back and do it again. That'll really, but I mean, your stock can't get any higher than number 1. You know what I mean? Like,
so you should go if you win. Talking about staying becomes like, that's just a bad business decision.
But this is where the NIL it can be helpful because now there's no rush to go.
Very true.
I'm being compensated right now. I'm having a good time. I have no real pressure on me. I'm at the college level. It's not the same level of pressure as playing in the pros. Like that kind of is helpful at this point for guys who care about the college game and their college experience and being a college student athlete. Like for those guys, you got all the incentive you need right there. You don't have to go to the next level, even if it's waiting for you. You can put it off another year or two.
I think that, to your point, Rhea, I understand what you're saying, but when you look at, let's go to the women's side. We saw our girl JuJu go down.
That was unfortunate.
Right? And those tough. Things, right. So my whole thing is, and that is so unfortunate because, now that we can say it, on they rained on your parade, South Carolina ended up pulling it out. So, but just the fact that we could have potentially seen something, we could have seen, I mean, think about who could have been in the Elite Eight. You're still going to have, USC still in it, but you got the UConns on the women's side. You still have, South Carolina, and you still have LSU potentially that can go to, that can still make it. We're looking at,
SEC
I mean,
and God damn it.
Right. And to see JuJu be up in there, I think from the women's side, I'm talking about the firepower that would have still been in the, in the tournament and where they could have ended up. That's why I'm saying you're looking at Cooper Kupp. Do you want to risk that injury? Things could happen. We understand that. But do you want to risk, the fact that you can get injured coming back after next season? Because and I understand that, we don't have a crystal ball. I think you can't play scared. But ultimately, like you said, from a business perspective, yes, he can still get an NIL deal. But the odds is he's going to go to a bad team regardless, this year or next year. But it doesn't matter. He's still going to go to a bad team. So if that's your, the premise for you wanting to stay, man, thinking that, well, maybe somebody get lucky and draw the number 1 pick next year that, isn't a bad. Now, don't get me wrong. You can go there's a difference in going to a bad team versus just a bad franchise historically. And I get that. So
point. That's true.
That could be that could be one of those things. I don't know who has the draft this year. I haven't, checked. But the fact still remains that it's going to come down if they win or lose. And I don't, you know what? I'm not sure because, like you said, we don't know his motivation. His motivation could be maybe if he does win one, I want to win another one back to back, and we go back to back.
Get this
Keep
Florida
the same
type
guys,
thing, the UConn type thing going on. Yeah,
right. So I can see both ways, but I just, man, in today's climate, I'm just looking at JuJu. I mean, man, luckily she's going to be a high pick regardless. JuJu's going to go, but still though, we're talking about injuries that can control, major injuries, surgery that can control, your future. Do you come back the same? We know that knee injuries aren't as bad as they used to be, like back in the day where you got an ACL was like doom and gloom, but still to get back to that player, it's a whole lot of rehabilitation and things that go on. And the fact that she's played late in the season, we're in the tournament, she got injured, not early in the season where she'll be ready. Like, it's going to take some time to get back to that form. So we'll see. But Henri, you still got one team left.
What I did not consider, though, on the men's side, there's more urgency in the sense that you stand to lose something if it doesn't go your way. Whereas JuJu has more incentive now to stay in college than she does to go to the WNBA. As much as we want to see her at the next level. Way more than she'll get paid.
Boards and everything out here. Y'all, if y'all in LA, I mean, it's crazy. It's JuJu madness out here. You know what I mean?
Whereas on the men's side, I don't give a damn how much you're getting paid in NIL money. It pales in comparison to the NBA contract and what you stay in the game. Like, so there's more urgency on his side. I mean, if he has people on his ears, he has advisors, he has, I'm sure, agents and the like. They probably advise him to punch out this year and go to the draft at your highest. And when your stock has reached its highest, that's when it's time for you to go. So if he's got wise people in his corner, they're advising him to leave. But again, it'll come down to, he's an adult. Well, he just became, oddly enough, we're talking about a dude who was 17 up until December.
Wow.
Having a season that he's having. This is a teenage, and by all accounts, he should be a senior in high school. He left early to go to Duke.
Yeah.
He should be senior right now at Montverde Academy in Florida. But he chose to end his high school career, play college ball early and enroll early. So this is a guy who just turned 18.
This is also the same kid who was giving buckets to the NBA team as they were preparing for the Olympics.
I mean, he's the real deal.
Wild.
He's the real deal. So a championship this year would definitely be great for him. I'd be great for, a whole nother conversation. It's a gain for American basketball, if you dig what I'm saying. Deeper meaning. It really is, though.
Oh,
it's a shot in the arm. It's a shot in the arm that the game needs right now. Let's be honest about that.
Well,
like somebody got to have a conversation. It might as well be us, right?
Well, this previous conversation, we talked about that, and I think, not to cut you off, Ree, when we talked about, the NBA, we're waiting for the next American superstar, not just superstar, because there's a lot of guys right now, but American superstar. And this
Don't
guy,
dodge it, Robert. Not just
kid,
American superstar. Come on now.
We can talk about that. But we're looking for the next Magic Bird situation, and with Cooper. We talking about with Cup. We're looking at
Flag.
Flag. I'm sorry, I always get but so
another bad white boy, by the way.
Well, no, we're looking at it. Well,
yeah.
Who would be the? Obviously, listen. Andy's young. Andy, he comes the background. We're talking about prestige of going to Duke, coming out. Honestly, I'm going to say this, and don't shoot me for it, Henri. I think Duke needs this because, we're talking about they've had a lot of guys, great white players that didn't pan out in the NBA. He could be, I'm talking about, he can be an impact, and they're looking the way, think about how young he is and his upside of it. This kid has the potential, depending on where he goes. I know a lot of that plays a role into it, which franchise he goes to. This has the potential to be something big. And him being so young, I don't know. He could just be having fun. I hope he comes out. I know the league hopes he comes out.
He's legit, man. Yeah, he's the real deal. This is a genuine article right here, man. Listen, you got a white dude, let's keep it a bean, small town America, from some small town in Maine. I'm sure most of us don't even know where the hell Maine is on a map.
Listen.
The geographically challenged probably can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know. It's somewhere in the New England area. Where exactly? For those who don't know, the northeasternmost state in the union, right? There you go.
Yep.
If you didn't know nothing, you learned something today, other than basketball. But small white dude from a small town, real deal, can really go. Now, granted, he's not putting a program on the back the way Larry Bird did with Indiana State, who hasn't really been noteworthy since then. Like, they've done nothing of note for real in any sport outside of Larry Bird's appearance in a championship game in '79 against Magic Johnson and that team. But You have all the makings of a Larry Bird-esque situation. He's the real deal. I mean, does he go to it? I mean, the NBA has to start thinking long and hard about where he lands because it has to be the absolute best and most optimal situation for him and the storyline, quite frankly. I mean, the NBA could use it. Basketball needs it in this country. It's a shot in the arm that we desperately need because we have not had there hasn't really been anyone on the horizon coming up, young basketball player who seems to be ready to take the helm right now. Cooper right now is the best candidate, if you ask me. Is it great that he happens to be a Blue Devil? Of course, bonus points, no doubt. Yeah, but I will say, listen, I don't mean to gloat. I know it's going to be a bragging session. We fared pretty well in terms of NBA stars since we had Zion. We've had quite a few. I think as of late, we've been winning the battle. Like y'all got Michael Jordan, the greatest of them all. But as of late, we've been putting out some stars in the league.
Don't start that. Start that.
I'm just saying.
Them Jordan folks will come for you. They're like Jordan.
I'm not saying we have our Jordan, but I'm saying we've been putting our output of star players and Paolo Banchero, Kyrie Irving.
Years, yes, you guys have had more people translate better into the professional game because, well, one, you got to remember, Carolina has a history of bigs. And the bigs that we have who are really good are good college players. One, I think they know that, right? Whether it's a Tyler Hansbrough, whether it's a Sean May, you look at a lot of these guys, Deion Thompson, when he was coming through, most of these bigs, when you really get into like the last, our Mount Rushmore bigs, that's when you get into like your Sam Perkins and your Rasheed Wallaces and dudes like that. But beyond that, and then we've had guards who have been very successful, but not. I mean, Ty Lawson had a great career when he was with Denver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rashawn McCants, maybe not as much, but in terms of the NBA translation, you guys got it. I'm not disputing that overall. Now, if we're talking about putting together
all-time greats,
all-time Carolina versus Duke, that's going to get real interesting, and that might actually be a future podcast. Now that I think about it,
but now it's a legitimate matchup. Now it was a time where we didn't stand a chance. We would have got washed.
I was going to say we might have to make those arguments, Bear, and you have to be the final judge and jury and executioner on who would win that. That might actually be kind of fun.
I mean, Duke got it. I mean, listen, it's going to be hard because. Albeit we always go back to it, man. Grant Hill is going to be one of those things where he could push it over the edge because we knew where he was. So Carolina had some great teams.
Let's say, you still got James Worthy. You still got Rasheed. You got some folks in there that
you got some players. Y'all definitely would have way more depth than we do.
If we got down to the bench, it'd be
it's a wrap by that point.
Where you guys are going to get us is in that guard play.
Yeah,
guard play is going to cause some problems. But but Duke is nothing to shine away from. Coach K, for everything that he was a great leader, and he had great players come through his program, and he had very intellectual people come through. If you look at that Duke footprint, and not to get off, you had people like Elton Brand go into front offices, Trajan Langdon and all these historic Blue Devils. So there is something to the sauce that was Coach K when it came to Duke. But with that being said, I think it sounds like for the most part, we think Duke is going to take it for the men. What are we thinking for the women's side of the house?
Ooh, I mean, now that they've survived this close call, I guess South Carolina. I mean, they've got to be.
It's always hard to go against.
Yeah, because teams like that, every now and again, they just need a challenge. They got to be pushed.
They need a wake up.
And now they've gotten that wake up call. We're not invincible. They'll probably run through the rest of the tournament as expected. Yeah,
this year.
Yeah,
lost none last year. Or the year.
I'm going to say something, man. I just thought this would have been a year that it would have been a real possibility that USC, which
it would have been great.
It definitely would have been.
It would have been great.
I think that
Cowboys, used to go to that village. That would have been nice. Yeah,
that would have been beautiful.
And
I'm not saying just because JuJu is great as a person. I just think of course, Southern California.
It's a revival.
I think they were the favorites. I'm looking at maybe Duke played a great game. I think Duke exposed a lot right now to South Carolina on the defensive side. It seems like
way more aggressive.
Oh man, you have to see that's their style. They love to be aggressive in their play, but you got to use that to their advantage. I mean, they almost lost the game at the end due to being aggressive, and all you have to do is just be able to be at the right places. We know defensive is about, and part of it is just hustle and anticipation. That's how you get the charges and everything. And that almost got him at the end of the game. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a big play. They just couldn't convert off the charge, off the, well, they couldn't convert enough. And that's what cost them the game at the end. And South Carolina kept their composure, but it was a great game. It's not going to shock me if South Carolina wins, but
Yep.
I'm LSU, even though they're a 3 seed, and that's because it's the beauty of, I think, the beauty of the tournament is all you need is one game. If they can make it there, I think that they have a great chance, and it wouldn't shock me if they were to beat South Carolina. If they were to make it to the big game, LSU, which
they got to get past that UCLA team, and
yes,
that's a tall order.
UCLA
going to be in a fight tonight.
That's a tall order, and Lauren Betts, no pun intended.
UCLA has been great, but they've been, I think, on the women's side, they've been kind of surprised. I don't think people were expecting them to play as good as they have.
They're number one seed, so you don't expect. I mean,
but I think out of all the number one seeds, I think that I would still think that playing against LSU, this is going to be a tough one. I understand last year. We understand, and this is really kind of a revenge game too. So it wouldn't shock me if UCLA actually won, because they forgot the taste in their mouth from last year. They still got that bitter taste of losing, what was it, Sweet 16 to LSU. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, this is something, man. I'm telling you right now that from the woman's side, it is looking great. I think the women's, college basketball, and particularly too, if this can translate into the WNBA, I think they're going to be good for the next 3 to 5 years.
Oh, again,
if they know how to play this right, if they know how to, because they got, I mean, these women, listen, people, these women basketball players are balling. They are putting up, I mean, I understand
you could argue their game is in a better place than the men's game right now.
I think there's not a doubt about
college
that.
and professionally, because what the women are doing is they are bringing people in. But one of the knocks on women basketball was the fact that it just wasn't entertaining. It was a lot of, now for me, from a coaching standpoint, I've always watched the women's game, because when you talk about sets, when you talk about execution, where the evolution of the game has come in is now you have female players with wiggle. You look at JuJu and what she's able to do. You start to look across the landscape, and you are starting to see these women have some of the moves. Right. Now think about the compare. Oh, she's the Kyrie of boom, boom, boom. And so now that means that game has evolved. The way they play, the way they move has become closer to what we were accustomed to in men's game. But there's just structure, the timing, their star power, and people like Angel Reese coming on, Caitlin Clark, those types of people who will now carry. You look at some of the names of the league, when you start talking about Cynthia Cooper, Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, Tina Thompson. I mean, there's a million women who have come through who have had an impact, but it's a matter of timing and star power aligning. They had arguably more star power when they first started, because you had so many amazing female women players, but it wasn't the entertainment value. It wasn't the intrigue. They couldn't. I think they were fighting their identity of what their league would look like, and it stifled what should have been the golden edge. And it was still, from a basketball standpoint, those women laid the foundation for some of the best basketball we've seen. And if you go and look back, I mean, even Dawn Staley, as she's coaching at South Carolina, you see the impact that they've had. But I think it's a matter of timing and where they are, where the men are starting to struggle in terms of, all right, we've just become a league of three-pointers. There's a lot of complaining. There's a lot of, the officiating. There's so many things in the men's game. You're trading star players now in the middle of the season, and the men's game is in flux, and the women's game has really found a nice point where they're settling in and they're thriving, and they're bringing us along. And furthermore, we're now interested in the journey. Reed mentioned Lauren Betts. You would not have known a UCLA arguably a couple of years ago, but now it's like, no, the conversation flows the same way. They are in a great place, and we look forward to just seeing that continue to thrive. And I think that's the beauty of it, because what we are now falling in love with is basketball versus men's basketball. And I think that, for me personally, is the best part of this. We are just loving the game that we love, and now we're rooting for whoever's playing that game the best way and the right way. But there's an entertainment factor that is across the board that I don't feel like we've ever seen.
as
I
a
think the
product, the women
fluidity
have
in
kind
which
of
they
figured it
play.
out. They figured it out as a product. On a college level, they've done things like gotten rid of the halves, 4 quarters. So it's
I
more
love
comparable.
That. The men need to adopt
They really need to
Yeah.
hurry up because LeBron made a great point, and we'll transition to that later
in his
interview.
Totally.
That it's a whole different game. And I've realized, like, there have been years where my interest has waned in college basketball because the difference is so vast.
This year.
That 30-second shot clock makes, again, in possessions, we discussed earlier, if you're down by 10 with about 5 minutes left in college basketball, that's pretty much the end for you. Like, there is no real rallying. Of course, you have your exceptions. It happens every now and again, but the likelihood isn't there because it isn't a game of runs. You don't get the same amount of possessions. But back to the women's game, the excitement and all, I can rattle off a number. Every team in the tournament, just about, I can tell you their best player. You got storylines like Haley Van Lith, who proved everybody wrong by leaving LSU. Well, first leaving Louisville first, then LSU, and now at TCU, knocking off that powerful Notre Dame team.
Oh my gosh.
Headed by Hannah Hidalgo. And she's a little, that little firecracker. She's nice. To be as little as she is, she's going to find a home in the WNBA. I mean, and she's going to be an exception as a player of her size.
For sure.
You've got Lauren Betts. Again, you've got Haley Van Lith. You've got JuJu Watkins. You've got Paige Bueckers, who's still in it, who might arguably be the best player in college basketball this year, right?
Yep.
There were a lot of comparisons to her and Caitlin Clark. I mean, should she have come out last year if she was eligible? I would have liked to have seen her in WNBA going again, but we'll get our chance to see it. But you've got, when I say an influx of stars coming into the women's game, you got Mylasia Fulwiley. You've got a ton of girls, man, who are coming up and are going to be household names very soon. It's really interesting now. And the other thing about the women's game,
hanging.
Hey man, I'm tempted to cop a couple. Maybe A'ja Wilson or something like that. But
I will give you two guys credit though. You guys brought me in because I'm not going to lie, from an entertainment standpoint.
You were a skeptic, to say the least.
Right, but I'm right. But I'm saying now, the fluidity in which the women play, with that wiggle the game that they have. Because one thing with the men's, we understand they're more athletic. They'll be able to jump out the gym and things. It's the dunking aspect. But what a woman can do with the women's basketball, which is still the pure form of the basketball, is be able to dribble, pass, get the shot, the inside, the little nuances of the game. I mean, because some of these women are handling the rock. It reminds me, I mean, they got that, like I said, they got that Kyrie, they got that Hezzy, they got the, the Euro step. You can see all that, and they play with like a smoothness to the game. And I think that like you said, Henry, playing with 4 quarters is something that they play at a different flow because of it. The men's basketball, those 2 halves, it can become drawn out. And like you said, it's one of those things where second half you go down by 10. But the women's basketball, you still got that 4th quarter. I mean, the game we just saw, that comeback, because Duke started to take control and we're up on them. But I think it's a psychological thing too. Not to mention the shot clock, the shot clock being 30. I think it allows for a slower game. And women's basketball, it's a bit, if you look at it, the speed is a little bit faster. And I think as men, we appreciate a much, it's okay to set up and be able to run your offense. But when you have so much time on the shot clock, it's very draining. And set up for the last shot, I don't.
30 seconds is just too long. I'm sorry.
Well, when you think about it,
some high schools
closer
don't
to
even have a
professional
shot
basketball?
clock.
The women's game or the men's game? Which more is close to professional ball? It's the women's game. The way it's constructed, the 4 quarters and everything, and the way they're playing, it's more reminiscent of something that we like. And I think that's something that college basketball is going to have to make adjustments to if they want to play their part in the evolution. And when the women's game has evolved, and lastly, basketball hasn't.
There is the fun of kind of acclimating yourself and getting and familiarizing yourself with something that seems new. They got that going for them too. They're the new kid on the block. They're the new toy. Yeah. So learning that is kind of fun, and that's fun in and of itself. So they've got that going for them too. They've got a good product. They've got the players. Soon to come, there'll be the personalities as well. You'll have your Charles Barkleys, you name it. So when they start to mature more and they figure that part out and they really learn how to fully get into sports entertainment, the product will get that much better. So, shout out to the ladies, man. They're doing a great job. I'm looking forward to
keep it up.
Yeah,
and we're rooting for you and supporting.
Definitely.
I think that's the other thing that I like. As someone who coached for a number of years, I've always just been in love with basketball and what basketball brings. I agree. Early on, there was little interest in the game for me because outside of just, I love the structure of, because I had to watch sets in terms of plays and everything. I thought the women did a much better job of that, but a lot of that was a byproduct of slower, not as athletic. So it was like, we have to find ways to get these shots off. Now it's like, hey, get her the ball and get out the way. So there's a level of excitement that just comes with that. All right, well, I guess pretty soon here we're gonna know who's who. So we'll keep our coverage on that. All right, fellas, it's time to talk about it.
The moment we've been waiting for. We got to get into this, baby.
In this corner, one LeBron James versus the newly renewed contracted Stephen A. Smith. This kind of took over as a basketball focus and centric podcast. We couldn't skip it. I know everybody's probably had their opinion, but let's just get into it. So LeBron took his talents to the Pat McAfee show. had a lot to say. Found it ironic that he went on an ESPN partner show right after First Take.
That was a shocker to me.
I was gonna say LeBron's a mastermind. Yeah, and there was some critiquing about who he chose to go see versus all his friends and some other folks. So that's an interesting wrinkle that came out of it. But the drama of it all, and I'm gonna let y'all just have at it here and kind of sit back. So Ree, let's start with you. When you saw the interview, when you heard LeBron and then Stephen A's rebuttal, what were your thoughts?
To be really honest, and I hate that I've had plenty of time and I have not done it. I haven't even heard Stephen A's rebuttal, his second rebuttal of sorts.
Yeah.
I thought this thing would have been over after his appearance on Gil's Arena. It wasn't. And for as much as people made a big deal of LeBron's appearance on Pat McAfee show, he didn't really go deep in the weeds about this whole Stephen A. deal. He touched on it and they moved off.
Totally
they did
agree.
Not. It wasn't a. It wasn't a. They didn't focus on it.
Much more based on all the buzz and the feedback and everything. I thought, LeBron then went in and lost his mind and went rogue.
That's what I was expecting to see.
After watching the entire thing, I was like, wow,
it's damn near much ado about nothing on his side.
About nothing.
It's way more of a Stephen A. issue from my estimation. Like he needs this more than LeBron needs it. Obviously. LeBron is
many reasons.
Listen, he's a global icon. For as popular as Stephen A. is in the sports media, you're not LeBron James. So LeBron does not need this. This does nothing for his brand, nothing for his legacy. LeBron just don't need this shit, straight up and down.
Right.
Whereas Stephen A., like you said, newly contracted at ESPN, and really, I noticed like the convenience of when he decided to start spouting off and posturing and damn near playing tough guy was after he got that contract. Once the ink dried, now Stephen A. has kind of got into big man role. Now he, you know what I'm saying? Now he on some bodman thing. You know what I mean? Like, what's up? like, come on, dog. Like, this is not you. All this posturing about what he would have done in retaliation against.
Would have swung on him immediately.
Listen, the fact that it's posturing because you're pretending as if LeBron had any intent on doing that. We're talking about a man who was so savvy, media trained, has more. LeBron James is not about to risk his reputation for Stephen A. Smith in front of the world to see. For the fact that you thought that was even part of his thought process, either you think that little of him or you think too much of your damn self. Like, but you couldn't be more wrong. And it was just silly that, first of all, it wouldn't have got there. Secondly, he would have slid you on the first punch.
I was gonna say,
you're not getting a chance to swing back.
Yeah, this is a wrap.
It's a wrap. It's not a competition. As a man, I know your pride stands in the way, and you got to be able to act like, I would have done. It's a whole bunch of woulda, shoulda, couldas. The fact of the matter is, you wasn't gonna do nothing there, nutter. Like most people against a 6'9", 260, 70-pound world-class athlete. Man, stop it. I'd like to believe I would fare pretty good against just about anybody. I have that kind of confidence in myself to defend myself, but. The reality of the matter is this man gets up every day to train and condition his body to play 48 minutes of basketball, which puts him in far better standing
than 48
me.
Minutes.
You know what I'm saying? Not to mention just the hours he puts in on his body in general to stay in that peak condition. So for you, Stephen A. Smith, who is all of 120 pounds with a 50-pound weight, you know what I'm saying? Bro, you ain't, stop it. Knock that off. And to get on, and to act like, because from what we can all tell, we don't know exactly what was said. The audio wasn't the clearest. it didn't seem to be much of a dialogue when he was in your face. It was a very one-sided conversation.
Yeah,
it was a whole bunch of nods, damn near on some. It was some yes sirs, basically.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That's what I saw.
What it looked like.
So for you to act like it was anything other than a monologue, bro, knock it off, Stephen A. There's not much more I need to hear about him, but there are some. There could be some fallout from this that neither can recover from. That can be really damaging to both brands. I don't think Stephen A. wants that. At the end of the day, like, LeBron can risk his brand. He's still going to be LeBron James, the billionaire, for all we know. Like, you know what I mean?
And he's going to keep building his brand and diversifying it.
Stephen A., if it doesn't work for you in sports media and at ESPN, you can't get the big contracts, where do you go from there? Because he's running the risk of killing off his credibility, his ability to talk to athletes, to have, like, he's slowly going to lose their trust. Because now I can't tell you, because the minute we fall out, you'll run to the cameras with all of my deepest, darkest secrets. Now, who needs that? Right. So, you know, that the whole thing is, as entertaining as it is, it seems really one-sided. I don't think LeBron is even focused on that. I do peep the mastery in that 3D chess move and going on Pat McAfee, though I think, again, I'm not criticizing him what he should have done. I just would have thought that you would have undercut Stephen A's employer, ESPN, and went to Fox Sports and gave them the interview. That seemed to be a bigger power play, but I understand it's still a slight to Stephen A. Smith on some levels. I'm not getting into
I'm a play in your face in your house after your show.
I guess even maybe you look at it like that. It's even more of a play than it would be sitting at Fox Sports. But the whole conversation about who he should have sat down with, why he didn't choose to highlight his fellow athletes who are now part of the new media, black media, like, let's not do that. This ain't that kind of conversation. This wasn't the time for that. If you didn't see what LeBron was the means he was trying to achieve, you're missing the entire point by making it about why didn't he go on a black podcast? All these black voices and his friends that could have used it. Stop it. They'll have ample opportunity once that man is done playing basketball to get his time. And I'm gonna land my plane on that. I don't know who else got the floor now, but it's much good about nothing.
What you got on it, Bear?
Where do I begin? I'll say this by saying this. When I first, I don't know if you guys remember, we touched on it, I believe, last podcast, and it was merely because only thing that happened was LeBron James approaching him, and during at the beginning of the third quarter. That's all that had happened then, and then Stephen A. Smith went on this tour once he, I guess, gathered his thoughts. Because initially, listen, I thought it was going to be over. When he said, from a father's standpoint, I understand. Had he left it there, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But he decided, after the fact, and I think the problem is he let comments get to him. He saw the comments of guys saying that dude was, did you see how tight he was?
You already know.
Did you see how stale? All those things, and his ego got to him. Then he started, he proceeded to keep going on, and you started. See, part of this went back to my initial comments last podcast when everybody was looking at it from a standpoint of, man, he could critique, and I said that there's no problem with critiquing but we're in this stage of entertainment, and it's to the point where it overtook the actual basketball side of things as far as being a commentator and keeping it within that realm and within those lines. I think the issue was some of the things started to head towards more of a demonstrative look as far as the comments went with his son. Because if you notice, no one said anything about when he had some good games. They didn't say he had a great game. I always said I understand about the criticism. I understand that LeBron James helped put a target, but even then, we always like to contort in things because LeBron James said some. But when he talked about the players, somehow we went from some of the players to the majority of the players in this comment initially when he said about his son being better than. Even that slight thing. I look at this thing when it happened, right? And he went, I hate the fact that Kendrick Perkins, when he made it about race, and he made it seem like,
that was weak.
What about this? What about that? And you could have helped him. He not only about which platform he went to, which show he went to, but also for his podcast of having Steve Nash saying, you could have had Channing Frye and all these other guys. And he was trying to allude to the fact it's about racism. I hated that. Like that's something that we got to cut out. If it's not a clear-cut case of that. One thing I will say is I didn't expect anything less from the ESPN, everybody that's employed by ESPN that go on the First Take show, because listen, they understand what feeds them. So I expected the comments to be what they were going to be, and everybody helping out Stephen A. Because initially they got on LeBron talking, and every man I heard Ryan Clark and everybody, man, you went up to LeBron, LeBron, why didn't you go up to? Listen, you didn't go to Skip. Why? See, I knew what. See, we should have known then what they were trying to bring up. We knew that Skip Bayless wasn't even available, right? And when he went on the Pat
Skip don't
McAfee
be
show,
outside.
right. And but by all accounts, Stephen A. Smith is the one that said, "I ain't hard to find. I'm over." He came with all that bravado.
No
So
doubt.
LeBron James caught you, and he shook your draws, and you were sitting there. If I mean, man, the memes that came up out of that thing, because he didn't say a word but nod his head. It was almost like LeBron was like, "If you understand, nod your head," because he was too afraid to say yes. Because it just seems like it was a one-sided thing, and he made it that way. But when he started talking about, I would have swung on him, even preface it by saying, "Oh, he would have whipped my ass." It don't really matter, brother. He didn't approach you with that energy like he was going to beat you up. But once again, that ego, you had to feed your ego. And let's be real. I said this, yes, Chris, yesterday, Chris, we were having a conversation. I said he needs to thank LeBron, because yet again, LeBron has helped you out by you being able to speak about him and make this the front line, the
Even
head
LeBron
page
was
news.
hesitant on it when
Right,
he was
even
on the
though,
Pat McAfee show. He's
well,
gonna
and
be
he
sitting at home
barely
smiling
addressed
ear to
it.
ear about me
And
just saying his name.
he barely addressed it. He had many other things that he addressed besides that. He kind of touched on it and moved on. Don't get me wrong, LeBron James. We know he's always calculated, and we know that the hen, the fox was in the hen house. He knew what he was doing, but
Right.
but when I look at it, right, and then because at the time it was Perkins and it was Windhorse who was on the show.
He caught the worst of the shrapnel, truth be told.
Well, but even then, though, Windhorse caught it. But I'll say this: maybe it seems that way because the way he speaks about LeBron, you think that they would have an intimate
There's
relationship.
a level of familiarity there.
Right.
Yeah. Just because you've covered me doesn't mean we've been close.
Right.
So that's what's been going on. And by all accounts, I was fooled into believing that. I thought that, oh man,
I thought it was closer too.
Right.
Yeah.
He must be having in-depth conversations. Like at the end of the day, like, trust me, I know. And when LeBron James comes out,
and shit,
right. Like me and him, we're on the phone. He has my number. We talk, on the regular. When LeBron James came out and called him pretty much weird, like, or not him, but just necessarily the situation is weird. You know what I mean? Like, you're speaking to me, and they use him, and that's what they use him, and that's, to tell you the truth, that's like his shtick, and that's what he's known for. Everybody tags
Biggest
him like
angle as being the LeBron insider.
And the fact that he is not a LeBron insider, he's just been a guy when you think about it, it's almost creepy. The guy that's closely watched LeBron's career since high school, but you've never had a real close relationship to where, somehow you're going to be in his memoirs or something like that later down the line. You were just a guy that closely watched the games from a standpoint that was, I guess, a little bit more in depth than the next person, but never enough to where you know what was going to happen, or you knew you were privy to certain information before it came about. That all LeBron James was doing was setting things straight. And also, I will say this: that kind of gave me pause for a lot of things, because what made LeBron James do this? All his 20-plus-year career, but aside from a few times that he had interviews, the decision, things like that, he really doesn't really run to the media. So that kind of had me looking at this whole situation. Is there something bigger? Because we know there's a calculation.
Time to land this plane.
I think so.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, when you start looking at the moves that the Lakers made and how he didn't want to, don't mortgage the future just so I could try to win. I think LeBron is happy with his career. Think about it. He was able to play. He can say he played with his son. He got that.
He checked that box.
The Lakers, and I think he tried, and I think he's at a point now where he may be tired of it all. I think you can love the sport, but still be like, I'm ready to move on from it. And I think that he made this move with Luka, and he knew it wasn't like getting a rookie. So if we don't win with this one, I put certain people in position. I got our coach the job, so where everything's great for the future for him. We're having Luka and a lot of great young talent, and now I can move on from it and leave the Lakers in a great position for the future. It's not a shock if I would, let's say after this year, and I think he won't say it until after this year. Let's say they win the championship. I think he's going to probably, if not this year, most definitely think the following year, that's going to be his going away tour. I just think that Stephen A. Smith has, blown this up more than what it needed to be. And
in true Stephen A. fashion.
I mean, well, not to mention, like you said, credibility is shot, because that's what made it look bad, is you were saying things when you start going outside the rim of basketball. I said, oh, brother, he struck a nerve. And I always believe this in my true heart. There's something else underneath this, because for him going up to you and said what he said, because now everything is coming out. And now Stephen A. Smith, all these, real feelings are coming out, which you could have expressed this a long time ago. Why are you doing it now? And you're expressing basically, but this is your go. Yeah, this and that. And man, come on, man. Check this out. We know he wasn't your go. The bringing up the Kobe situation. How did you not know
this? Got a little different to me.
Not only that, then he brought up
I knew that was
the Wayne situation.
You bringing up situations that, brother, you on the outside looking in. You don't know what is really going on, because none of us know. We could say all we want to say, yeah, he wasn't there for this and that.
Conjecture,
and right.
Yeah.
And I understand from the outside looking in, it could be a certain way. But I would like to believe that Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, even if the Wade didn't like it, they probably had a conversation about that. And see, but this is the problem with Stephen A. Smith. You are shooting yourself in the foot. And because I believe by de facto, you have become at this point, you are the new Skip Bayless. And that's not a good thing. I think that Skip Bayless, because when you look at it, some of the things you're starting to do, you're going to cross a line that you can't return from. And, your takes are going to change. Your takes are going to become, less about the player's actual game, more is it about who they are. I think that Stephen A. Smith is teetering on a point where, yes, you got the big contract, and it's going to be about, and this, but see, nobody brings this together, right? Nobody brings this together about what even Charles Barkley said. And I was with Charles Barkley. I understand that Stephen A. is saying that this is television, but at what point do you kind of got to keep the core of this? And this goes back to when you look at it, men's basketball as a whole, because the women, they're making headlines for all the right reasons, right? Men's basketball is making headlines, whether it be about, the too many threes, the way the game, the style of play, all these things. And now you're looking at the commentary side of it. It is all coming to a culmination where something needs to be fixed, because we're getting away from the core of commentating. Like, listen, I know we laughed at the whole Shaq and the Fool and things like that, but man, come on now. We're getting to a point where you're ostracizing and talking about players on a level other than, man, he wasn't a great rebounder, but this dude's a buster. And I can understand if I was, if I was a professional basketball player, right? I'd be pissed off a dude talk to me like that. Talk about my game, but when you start calling me a bum and all that, like, bro, you can never be in my shoes. And it's almost a slap in the face. I heard Gilbert Arenas say something like, I tend not to look at the bad things of a player, because listen, making it to the NBA is hard enough, and to be great at it is a whole nother thing. So I can look at the bad things and still look at the great things that they're doing. But guys like Stephen A., because of entertainment factor in television, they've gotten to a point where now, like, look how far it's going. Like I said, you brought up Kobe to try to prove a point. You went that low, and to now, even like you're
wrong.
Well,
that to me speaks to a bigger emotional outburst than anything. Where, for somebody who's supposed to be so polished and at the top of your game, you threw out arguably the most sensitive topic that here in LA for people in LA. Because I don't even know that was for LeBron. That was to try and stir up something with the people.
Yeah,
and for you to be wrong,
right?
And it's like, that's outside of what we're even talking about. That's when it kind of lost credibility for me. One, when we first talked about this, I hadn't seen the interview. I just saw little clips here and there. And it was a reminder at how well media can spin a narrative, right? Because my first impression was like, both of you guys are kind of corny for jumping out here in this format where it's like, look, you talk about it, address it, move on. But unless you're just trying to keep it going. But after I watched it, I agree, Ree. It was very little. It was about, hey, he went on his Taylor Swift tour. He might not like some of the words that were used, but it was absolutely true. Yeah, I wasn't going to bring this up until the video surfaced. Okay, well, in essence, what you admitted was you had plans.
You've been waiting.
You had a plan
Yeah.
in place for this.
I wasn't gonna do
stop
this,
playing in my face and pretending like I'm not reading what's happening. Whereas I wasn't going to, but since the video came out, you just happen to have it ready, locked and loaded.
Since I look like a real live chump, I gotta save face, and this is what I gotta do.
Worst case scenario, you had some thought around it. Secondly, I think there is a level of wrong on both sides where, yes, LeBron has jumped out even with the comments of, I think Bronny's better than some of these guys out here. That's a lot to put on considering where he was in his career at that point.
Fair.
And I think that needs to be something where it's like, okay, that's a fair criticism. And it could just be, look, a dad in a moment or just somebody looking in a moment. And yeah, could have been the worst thing ever. No, but you have to be able to live with how somebody could take that the wrong way and go, hey, these guys have made it. You start looking at, because now you open yourself. If this was a court case, right? Supreme Court podcast. If you open yourself to that, now you get to bring that in, right? In a court case, hey, you made a way for this to now become, okay, well, cool. Since that's the case, is he really a McDonald's All-American? Is he really? And now you've given the naysayers a path to now dispute because of what you said.
Yeah, you made it.
So I think from that standpoint,
evidence, yeah,
it's it's completely fair game.
I think
in
that was the issue,
in that way. Well, I think it played a role in, because now you're putting a narrative out that matches and it benefits you, your camp, your son, at least in somebody's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've created a position. But Bron said, look, it's my point to stick up for not only my family, but the players. Now, here comes another. How many of the other players have you stood up for when things have gone wrong?
We don't want to get
right?
into that.
Well, no. But I'm saying it's those small things that people want to hang on to, and if you give somebody who wants to find an argument a way to, or an outlet, that's what's going to happen. I thought it was completely distasteful. Like, what Stephen A. did was, it got less and less about the situation, and it's about don't dare let me air out your dirty laundry.
It's more to come.
Let's not talk about this. Yeah. Let's not talk about this. And it became very much, I know where the skeletons are buried. And it was like, well, that's not even where we're going. Right. I mean, that's what got D'Angelo Russell in trouble as a young Laker, where it was like, hey, you've stepped out of the lines of what the issue is or what should be done. And to see somebody who is that seasoned, who depends on media, who depends on that relationship. Part of the reason you got that huge contract is, because you are in places some of these other guys haven't been able to get to in years. For you to now jeopardize that because you lost a battle, you're willing to now put the war up. It's like, that's just not, it's not worth it. And it becomes petty. And if he would have, I would have, okay, where was that energy? That energy didn't match what we saw. So if that energy doesn't match the actual film, stop. Let's just call it what it is. Hey. And he made some valid points. I don't have to like you. Am I going to cover you? Yeah. You must see TV. You're one of the best athletes out there. But I thought just from that perspective, after watching the video, I was like, this didn't have to take up as much as it did. And it went a little too far. Yeah. It went a little too far. I mean, for you to come on the next day, have a whole 17-minute monologue without any breaks and everything. And then it became this, that man is 6'9". That is Thanos. There's no way you're about to swing on that man. What are you going to do? Hit him in his lower rib? Stop. Right. Why are we pretending that this was going to be
60 years old?
Like, stop. Let's not do this on camera, because for what? Both of you guys have done very well for yourselves. You got your money. You still going to talk more. At least Stephen A. is still going to address him, because it's literally why he got his money. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But in hindsight, when you have all the details, to me personally, it does look a little worse on Stephen A. in this particular case. But
because at the end of the day, listen, LeBron James is going to be box office. How often does he speak to the media? So from that viewpoint, they were happy to hear him. The issue for me was, see, this goes back to a bigger issue that I had. I understand by all accounts why they are going after Bronny. But the problem is, this goes to show you that the NBA didn't have nothing better, where we were late in the second half of the season still bringing up something that was really irrelevant. That's the issue I had. LeBron, listen, I think that the sportscasters and commentators have a duty to try to keep, things fresh. But the main thing was talking about the Lakers, which I understand that part, and Bronny throughout the whole season. We didn't speak about the great rookies that were playing. They got little shine this year. And like I said, for the first couple weeks, month, 2 months, you can talk about Bronny. You're late in the season and the second half after the All-Star break, and we're still bringing it up like it's relevant. That's the problem I had. And that's what I knew. This isn't, see, this is us really taking giving a chance to really go at LeBron by way of his son. Because you don't, listen, by all accounts.
Proxy.
Yeah. Right. Like I said, I never had a problem with them doing it, but I knew at some point, see, look where we're going. Because you don't get this late in the season to still attack a 55th pick. Like, you don't do that. And to keep going, that's what I'm saying, where you had headlines. That's why I say, even in a preface by saying the women, they were doing it right. They were making headlines for great things. The NBA right now, when you think about it, and now you add this to it, it is looking bad for men's basketball. And we understand that Stephen A. isn't just men's basketball, but they get a lot from that, from the headlines for basketball, and using and going back and using the whole GOAT debate and going back and forth with that. So that was my whole thing. I didn't. Excuse me. Listen, we can talk about LeBron James possibly being petty and things like that, but like I said, I saw, man, he tried to egg and bring on and Wendy, your guy. That was so. Come on now, he kind of egged on Windhorst. You could tell, Windhorst was trying to just listen. I'm gonna just pass it by. I'm not gonna really delve into it. But Stephen A. kept egging him on and just, that's your guy. Come on, man. Like, it was so bad. Like I said, it was very, and excuse me, women, when I say this, it was very feminine and my viewpoint, that you went against all your credibility to try to prove a point. That's not something that men do.
You know what
men don't.
You know what men do, and what it showed me ultimately, and on both sides, on some levels, it shows,
on both sides.
It shows the fragility of the male ego, and what we'll do to protect it, especially our public personas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that. Unfortunately, there is some truth to that. It's just what it is. Like the Stephen A. Can he behave in a feminine manner at times? No doubt about that. But what he did at the root of it was the most masculine thing, which is to protect his own ego.
But nobody expected him thinking, "Oh, you're gonna beat up LeBron." But everybody it was all,
But he got marked out essentially on camera. He had to do something to save face. He got marked out.
But that's only because his mouth prior to that, the way you kind of carried yourself in the bravado in which you carried yourself in. Had he not had that, nobody
I'll give you that over there. Because Stephen A. is the first to be on some pull up on me. You know where I'm at. I ain't hard to find.
Baby, I'm from New York.
He be on that. He be on that heavy. No doubt about that.
That Akron, Ohio bull came up to you and politely told you, tuck your tail when I'm speaking. Yeah. See, that's the problem with it. Had he not been like that, that's what I say. That's when I say this, and I'm serious when I say this. He's teetering on becoming a Skip Bayless, and I don't want that for him. I want him. By all accounts, he's been successful thus far, but he is on a cusp because that's something that Skip Bayless would have done. He pulled a Skip Bayless move, and honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't think this is over. I think he's gonna.
It definitely needs to be.
Now, if you want to talk about something,
because it can get really ugly.
But if you want to talk about really something ugly, when they talk about blackmail and this we're attacking each other, don't it always happen at the end of the careers where the careers are said and done? It wouldn't shock me if all these things come out about LeBron James, the skeletons in the closet. Because you talked about it last week when there was accounts that Shaq or somebody, rumors that Shaq was looking for info on Shannon Sharp. I think that we're in this round because remember, there's two different sides.
An unofficially official source. But I won't even go. I wouldn't even went too far.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Yeah. This is where we are: entertainment and basketball. We understand from a basketball standpoint. Adam Silver I think he's going to intervene if it continues to carry on, because he's already made a statement. But see, the thing is, they're partners with ESPN. So they may not like it, but this is great for their partner. We may not like it, but this is great for ESPN. This is, the views that they got, the fact that people are going back, right? And that's unfortunate, So, man, I hope they can get it together, because it really is petty on both ends. I just hope that Stephen A. Smith, because I don't hate Stephen A. Smith. I want him to be successful and continue to be successful. I just think he needs to backtrack. Don't do this again, because I think your credibility is teetering, boy. It's on thin ice right now. And I thought it was always on thin ice with the new generation of players. So,
but aside from that, in this conversation, what I thought, again, we talked about it earlier, is just my assessment. This is what I saw from my vantage point. It seemed as if Stephen A., Brian Windhorst, ESPN, all his issues with people aside, and the sports media, it seemed as if we were getting that glimpse of LeBron James that we've wanted for. You get it with his podcast, right? Now he's got a new one coming up with Steve Nash. Which is, I maybe it's just me. I feel like I know what people's moves are and their motivations and their intentions are. It seems as if he's trying to position Steve Nash for another NBA job, and LeBron is using that leverage to do so. It worked out for JJ Redick. Why not for Steve Nash, who's had success as an NBA coach, to get another crack at it? Not that he needs it, but I'm sure it certainly wouldn't hurt to have an interview process over the course of a podcast season to other GMs and team owners. Like, hey, this is my basketball mind on full display, in case you didn't know it. You know what I mean? Like, and whatever he may have changed since his stint with the Brooklyn Nets.
It's interesting.
I mean, it is what it is. Like,
it makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Though, I mean, and I'm sure you'll have conversations about that. Well, it'll come up. Why didn't he highlight a black player who wants to get into coaching who could have used that? Like, but you'll get that. Who knows how that worked on? Who knows what happened in the background? But to me, we got not so much of an introspective. It wasn't a deep LeBron James, but it was good to see LeBron let it all hang out in an interview. And it seemed to me like I mentioned earlier, that seemed to be the vestiges of a player starting to enjoy the winter of his career and embrace the coming of his retirement and life after basketball, because LeBron is incredibly personable and he comes across well on camera. You relate to him. He seems cool. He's polished, but he's not so sterilized that he's a professional in sports and radio and content creation. But LeBron does radiate that star quality. Like, he takes you back to the days of his early career when he was a really fun character in his commercials. And
the LeBrons, for example.
Right.
It was,
right.
Yeah. Right. He's showing us his personality. Maybe that's just LeBron trying to get the best and most mileage out of the end of his career and enjoy other aspects of his tenure as an NBA, as an icon, quite frankly. But I thought it was cool for that reason. I didn't even take away the whole Stephen A. thing. It was such a small part of the conversation. I think he did his part by going to Pat McAfee. That was his kind of slight to him without focusing on it. You know what I mean? He didn't need to. Again, I thought Windhorst caught the worst stray. He caught, you know what I mean? Like,
I got shots.
Yeah.
Weirdo. Like I said, I just want to say this last quick thing, you guys. I'm sorry. I just will say this. Sometimes as parents, we do things for our kids to help them that others may not agree with, but you understand it was necessary for it to happen. And I will say, I think that's what happened. I know he's in the league and he
did what he thought was best for his situation.
But and honestly, it looks like it's shown. I think Bronny is playing much more loose in the league now as a result of that, because there's something to see your father stick up for you and keep that faith in you. And I think, and like I said, sometimes I get it. From popular, it was unpopular what he had done and everything. But then again, a lot of guys that say this, they never had the opportunity to play with their son either in the league either. So I could be on the outside and say
a lot of guys. He's literally the only person who
But I'm saying, so you hear so you hear them say, I would let I said, you know what? We would like to hope so, but for LeBron James, and we have to we can't never forget what he saw, what happened to his son, land on the ground and, heart stopping and things like that. I don't want to go through that. I don't know what that feels like. Don't never know what it feels like. But the fact that he was able to stick up for his son, and as long as his son got the message, at the end of the day, you got to live with that. And I think he's willing to live with that.
Yeah.
Say no more.
Yeah. All right. Last question before we get out of here. Last week, we introduced something a little more fun or just throwing something out there. This week's question, this segment, fellas, will never know what the question is. So what y'all think is the name of the segment. Quick question for you. What is something you wish you had done in your 20s? What is something you wish you had done in your 20s? What y'all think?
I mean, that's easy.
Who's going first? What's that?
That's easy for me. Travel. Like, really,
yeah.
As much as I wanted to see like Brazil and London, that was my opportunity to do it. Like, you'll never be more free than when you're childless.
Yeah.
And when you're unmarried, uncommitted to anything. Like, I could move around freely from job to job, from place to place. It didn't matter. But I wish I would have gone out and really saw at least the parts of the world that I wanted to see. It ain't but a few places I just really was dying to see. Some for great reasons, some for not so good reasons. But I really wanted to see it. I had to see Brazil, right? I still want to see it in this lifetime. Now for different reasons, because I have an affinity for Brazilian music and the culture. I love Brazil and everything about it. I love their translation of like American music, and I don't know. It's just they got a beautiful language, beautiful beaches, beautiful people.
Like a really cool place.
It seems like a great place. The UK and a few other places, but other than that, like I regret not doing that because you don't get a chance to do it once you get a family, and not just for the financial aspect of it. It's very expensive. I mean, raising a family and being, having a family is an expensive undertaking. Like financially, it is a very, very much a financial affair. But you factor in like international travel with a family, and you got to take in the fact that you got kids and a wife who ain't really hot on getting an airplane. You're never really going to convince them until they're comfortable doing it. You got to wait for them. But it's like you still want to go see things. You still want to go do stuff, but you're limited by that.
A little different.
Because you got to take it into consideration. Like, you can't just do what you want to do. Like, you have to consider your children, your wife, and what they're comfortable with, where they want to go. And a lot of times, as a man at least, you sacrifice a lot of what you want to do for what your family wants to do. Because most, if not all, of what we do as a family is what they want to do. Trust me, if I never see the inside of another amusement park for a million years,
you're like, life's good.
Life is great. You know what I mean? Like, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. Like, the things they want to do, I have little to no interest in, but I got to kind of pony up the money. I got to really put on my game face. I got to pretend to enjoy it. I got to make sure they have a good time. But it ain't what I want to do. Like, 99.9% of the shit I just would never want to do. I'm not interested in doing. I'm forcing them. But, I love my family enough to do that for them. But the single man having to worry about that, man, I would have been all up and through the parts of the world that I would have wanted to see, having all kind of adventures. That's like the main thing I would have. I mean, there are other things as well. But, I mean, I wish I just would have been more, I would recognize just how free I was. But in that aspect in particular, travel would have been, but I didn't realize just how free I was, like how I was unbound by anything really, anybody's expectations. I didn't even care about that in my 20s, but I was unbound by real obligation, real responsibility, and that kind of stuff. You lose sight of that. That one thing about your 20s in America, I will say, young folks, if you can hear me, you're under the command of my voice, understand this one thing. You have the luxury of, in this country only, you can do some good fucking up in your 20s and recover. That cannot be said for most of society outside of this one. You can do a good amount of damage short of throwing away your life and your freedom. But you can, even then, I mean, dudes who go to prison, those are some of the most model citizens in my experience, guys I've known, who go to prison early and lose most of those
freedoms.
Yeah, and their late teens and 20s. When they come out, they're pretty well reformed. And they hit the ground running because they've lost the most pivotal time of their lives. So short of that, you can bounce back from anything. But when you realize just how free you are, how little obligation you really have to anybody but yourself, that's your time to be selfish. And I wish I would have taken that more, and I would have had less fear of the world and fear of failure. Because if you fail at that point, you're not falling from great heights. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
You falling from through a couple of stairs. You know what I mean? You'll scrape your knee, you'll get back up and keep it moving. I wish I would have understood that.
And the nice thing is you got a bunch of people failing around you too. So you guys are all picking each other
right.
up.
You know what I mean?
Either.
I'm not failing with a family on my back. I'm not jumping out of a plane without a parachute with my wife and kids. I'm jumping off a couple of steps. And if it hurts a little bit, hey, you'll recover. You'll be all right. I wish I would have been fully it's hard in hindsight to realize how much you didn't grasp the freedom in your 20s until, you know.
For sure.
For those who got it, I'm damn near envious. God bless you. For those of you who understand it now, you know what I mean? You got to wait for hindsight to kick in, and you just like, fuck it. I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants and let it all hang out. I'm going to drop my balls and live my life. You got it. You got the right idea. Continue to do you.
What about you, Bear?
Very similar, much of the same. I will say that most of us have been conditioned to think a certain way coming out of high school, right? From our parents. And once you live life and been through some things, you realize that we love our parents, but their view was very old school and not, I won't say realistic. It was realistic for them. But when you think about having the freedom, being young, being in your 20s, trying to figure it out, messing up, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes. And I think it helps you become a much more well-rounded person, especially as a male, to kind of figure yourself out. Because part of that, all that is the journey of figuring yourself out, right? And to have these experiences that help shape and mold you. Then going from there to starting to settle down and understand, because for a man, your whole journey is to realize your purpose and to go after that purpose. What your purpose is, and through that, the steps of realizing, okay, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm trying to reach these goals. I'm learning about myself. I have a better understanding and grasp of life than I did in my early 20s, to where you start to round off and put yourself in position, which in turn makes it better for your mate, because you're not going into a situation where you don't fully understand and know yourself, and now you're bringing another person along for the ride, not just other children eventually, but another person. I understand now why people that did it, they went about it a different way, waited till their 30s to have a child, because they were in every aspect of their life, seemingly you're supposed to be, or at least I hope they were much more stable. We're talking about financially, mentally, spiritually. They were already on their journey. They understand what their purpose is, and bringing into, not only a child, but in a relationship, you can be more stable for them. And I understand all these things now, because, our parents, a lot of us, when you retire, you get to do all these things. And we take for granted that, who's to say we're going to have, later on. Later on is something that is the unknown. Right now it is, just to have those experiences. I have a coworker, he's much older, and he was telling me, I was in my 20s, man. On my Harley, I would just ride to New York, and I lived in Queens for like a year, just on my bike, found work, did this, then moved to the Florida Keys and drove out just the experiences that he had, that he would never change for a million years. It helped shape him. It helped him to understand, because we have to get outside of our box. A lot of us have not left our box. You know what I mean? And we still, even in our relationships and marriages and with children, we truly, some of us truly don't know ourselves 100%, because we left a lot on the table. There's a lot there's a lot that we didn't do. And, we're kind of, some of us are sending, our family through it, because we're really not happy with ourselves. We're in a relationship, a marriage with children, and you're not 100% happy because the things that you didn't do. And I'm not certain things. Listen, it's too late. But the opportunities, because now you have too many responsibilities. You have all these responsibilities, and it's just not in the cards for you to still be able to do that. So the freedom, like you said, Henri, that is like my biggest thing. If I could go back, I mean, even amongst us, to have the time we just would have had that, we always talk about it, all moving in together.
That was mine.
What
That was
what would have that looked like,
to have that apartment,
to have those ups and
experience in
downs,
just
right?
2-3 years where we're just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been fun.
Figuring out, having fun, going through your ups and downs, and looking back on that, I think, and I hopefully I don't, misstep when I say I speak for all of us, that it seems like we went from 18 to here. Life hits everyone, but it seemed like it went, like, it just fast forwarded, and it was just like, boom, we are here. You know what I mean? A lot of us, I mean, all of us, we're talking about married young, been in relationships, didn't even get to live that part of a young man's life that I want, my sons to live is without responsibilities, without children. Honestly, I tell my children as they were getting older, I want you to be in a place where you can be selfish, not in a bad way, but be selfish unto yourself and so you can experience. So you don't leave anything on the table that you're going to regret later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we could do this in wholesome fun. I'm not talking about break the law or anything like that, but I do want you to really experience and have fun and take in all what life has. A lot of us haven't really even lived life. We've been really surviving all these years, but never really can say I lived life at all. I mean, not even a third of it. You think about it, when you think about the things that you wanted to do or things that you thought that you wanted to do and never have yet to even do some of the things. It don't have to be anything crazy. It can be like, man, I've never been out of my state, out the country. I've never been to that basketball game. All these things. You know what I mean? And we don't get those times. We don't get some of that time back because you don't know what the future holds. We like to
Yeah.
think that we're going to live a long. I mean, man, our parents are, went by the old school. My mother thought when she retired, oh, I'm gonna, mom, please. When it comes to travel, it's like, yeah, getting out of bed and going to the store is like fun
Travel.
enough. That's it. That was travel. But this mindset, you thought that I was going to retire and become this person, that I was going to have all this experience late in my 60s.
You were
That
going to be
was
in
when you
Mykonos or Monte Carlo.
it's
It didn't
it's
happen.
not realistic. It's not realistic. It sounds good. I think that's just that cliche, conversation. Everybody, those sayings everybody always has, and you always think, when you retire is when I'm gonna enjoy myself, and then you realize retirement is just that. And now I start to understand and see why a lot of people that I work with, like, man, you have 30 something, 40 years. You have the age, you can retire. Why not? Because they realize there's nothing left. This is it. Coming to work is the biggest thing. Besides that, there's nothing left. So that's my
Okay.
thing.
All right. Yeah. I think we all, and it's probably based on something you mentioned, Bear, we're all kind of like minded, same path, same journey. But yeah, just that
Yeah.
component of having a little more time to be just just that apartment phase. When we finally get to telling you our adventures, you'll realize a lot more why that would have been something we would have clung to. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was good
Yeah.
times. But another good one in the books, fellas. If that's it, we'll see you next time.
That's it for
Yeah.
me. As if you were Barry. You got anything else?
Man. Hey.
Should probably tell them
Man.
where to find us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share,
Sure.
all the things.
Yeah,
Right?
go hit your YouTube, y'all. At the Supreme Court. That's not easy enough. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, you just don't want to find us. You know what I mean? I hope that ain't the case.
Right.
At YouTube, at the Supreme Court, at our actually it's at Supreme Court Basketball at YouTube, at Supreme Court Basketball. Our website at Buzzsprout, the Supreme Court Basketball.buzzsprout.com, if you care to find us there, and anywhere you can get your podcasts. Just look up Supreme Court Basketball Podcast. We should pop up. We should appear and be there. We should be in there like butt hair, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Check us out. Check us out, y'all.
Yeah, please
Tap
do.
All right,
in, I'm
well.
telling y'all.
And
Till next
again,
time.
your comments, your feedback is probably more than anything. I would appreciate your feedback. The donations are great if you want to do that on our website. If you,
let us know what you feel.
Yeah, let us know what you're feeling. Your comments and your feedback, as well as your likes and subscribes, are cool. But I want to know what the feedback is, because I really want to get better at this. This is the one thing that I found in my life in my late years that I want to be good enough at, that I strive to be better at every time I step out and do it. So that matters to me. If it means anything to you,
that's fair.
Give me that feedback. I'd appreciate it greatly. And that's all I got to say. I'm done for the week.
Yeah. That's it. We out.
That's
We
that.
out.
We good.